Now, for some women that have careers, because there's many women out there that balance a professional career or working outside of the home with family life, and that's a lot to have to contribute to have to contribute economically as well as, emotionally and physically when caring for everyone within her home.
Now, before we get any further, please make sure you take the time right now and hit the like button. That's right. Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome. Thank you, Miss Hannah, for joining us. Thank you, Mo, for joining us this evening.
Hello.
You ladies.
Thank you.
Yes. You ladies will be representing the mid-20s. We want to bring our youth on for a lot of our roundtable. When I say youth, I don't want to be offensive. These are still grown young adults in their mid-20s. So they will be representing the mid-20s on up to the early 30s. And then this evening, I'm going to be a guest and a co-host because we got Ifa Bukola is going to be helping, basically hosting this session so that I too can join in on the dialogue. Today's topic is, what is a woman's role in the family and home as well as in society? I'm going to go ahead and open up this question to Miss Hannah. What do you think your role as a woman is in your family or in your home?
Thank you so much for that introduction. I think it's a very broad question because our roles can be different based off of society because it's so broad, and then our individual roles in our family, especially, in relationships. But, in the family, for me, being married and having children, a lot of my responsibilities in my role is mainly just to love and create an environment of love and an environment of peace for my family. That's my role, generally speaking, in the home, because there's a certain light that I feel like as the mother and the wife in my home, and me myself, is there's a foundation of love that I built, from a young age. And so a part of it is just me knowing myself and what my standards are and what I had been taught, and then bringing it into my environment and creating an entire place, or creating serenity around that, as well as, with my family, my, extensions of my family through my husband and, my immediate family and outward. And in society, I feel like my role at this point is to be a good example, if that makes sense, because in society, it's almost like it feels like we're being just looked at. We're always being watched. And in society, people don't know you personally. They only see what you put out, especially with us having all this social media. In society, it's built off of social media right now. And people that you meet in person, they only get quick interactions with you, or even at work and social environments. All of that is societal. So my role is just to be a good example of myself and what I represent.
All right. Wonderful. Mo, same question. What do you think your role is in your home or in your family? And then you can answer that same question, what you think your role is in society.
Yeah, so I would kind of say that I feel like I would need more specific questions because like Hannah said, I feel like it's a very broad question. For me personally, in my family, I would say loving and nurturing is my role. To my mom and my sisters, To my friends, all the relationships in my life, I would just say being a safe space for people to talk to, come and feel unjudged, to feel loved. I feel like that's what I offer to people. To For the men in my life to feel allow them to feel vulnerable, them to also feel unjudged, them to also feel like they could cry. I feel like that's the kind of space that I create. I feel like that's the role that I've given myself. And then on a larger scale, I'm not really sure that I subscribe, in a weird way, I don't really subscribe technically to roles. I kind of don't really feel like humans are one size fits all when it comes to relationships. I feel like compatibility is what matters, and you can kind of pick up what the other person can't carry, and figure out what you guys can do for each other so that neither of you are in a deficit. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, but family relationships and so on.
Okay. And so when you said broad, I'm gonna kind of help hone in a little bit more. So for instance, a woman's role in society, which is a beautiful role that only a woman can do, is definitely child rearing, right? Giving birth. That is definitely a role, and one of her roles in society. So I was just kind of wanting to know, what do you think a woman's role or your role as a woman is in society as well as in your home? And I think you guys basically answer that. Excellent. So I don't know if you want to add more now that I kind of gave you an example, or if you were good with that.
No, I feel like that aligns for me.
Okay, good. All right. Well, is it my turn, Bukola? Do I answer the same question?
Well, I'm definitely eager to hear, what you have to say about it. Please, if you could share, your perspective about that. We love to hear it.
I'm gonna be quick. I've been doing this for a minute, 40 plus years.
Quick.
My role as a woman in my home or in my family will definitely be being a caregiver. Okay. Being a partner to my significant other. Being a role model for my children, as well as, my partner. Yeah, I'm going to say those three main things in the home: being a partner, definitely sharing the responsibilities, and contributing to some decision making, and partnering with financial management, how we're going to spend the money, and definitely the household duties, keeping a good house, clean house, nurturing house, as Hannah was saying, being the caregiver. We have to be definitely take on, I think women take on naturally a nurturing role, caring for her children, caring for her partner, her husband. There's some women out there that even care for other family members, maybe their elderly parents, or sick parents, or siblings that may have to come in and reside with them, live with them. So being a caregiver to those people, providing emotional support to my partner as well as to my children, being the first teacher to my children, educating my children, and other daily care, basically caretaking or caregiving responsibilities. Now, for some women that have careers, because there's many women out there that balance a professional career or working outside of the home with family life, and that's a lot to have to contribute to have to contribute economically as well as, emotionally and physically, when caring for everyone within her home. But we can definitely and we should bring all of those skills that we're able to do in the home. We're able to do that and hopefully bring that successfully out of the home into our careers for those who are working outside of the home. And then my third one, last but not least, was being a role model. Oh man, that's tough. It could be very tough. We have to demonstrate what and how we want our children to be. We have to demonstrate, resilience and being ethical for our partner, being a support for them, because, it gets rough. Shit gets rough out there. And you still have to be that psychologist, that cheerleader, you know what I'm saying? That teammate, if you will, to your partner when they may be down and out or looking for some support or motivation or encouragement. So, being a role model for your partner as well as your children. That's what I think.
Fantastic. I'm glad we asked. I'm really glad we asked.
Okay, so what do we think? So we answered with the society and we answered with in the home. I'm going to flip the script. What do you think, Bukola? And I'm going to ask Mo, what do you think a man's role is or should be, in your opinion, your man? What should his role be in your home and in society?
Well, I promise I'm not trying to take the easy way out. I'm again gonna say one, I don't think humans are one size fits all. I think my man's role would be whatever I need in my personal situation, which would be a lot different than what my mom needs in her situation, or what my sister needs in her situation with her man, or what my friend needs in her situation with her man.
Okay, Mo. No, yeah,
I'm
you
just
are
saying.
taking the easy way out. I'm gonna stop you. Let me ask a question.
But realistically, like, I don't have a solid answer. Like, I think a man should pay for this and that. What if he's not capable of doing so?
Okay, so if you were about to, let's just say, if you were dating, you met somebody, a man, or whatever your preference is, but you met someone, and he says to you, what do you need from me? What would that look like? What is my role or my responsibility to you in our relationship?
I would need a man to make me feel loved, appreciated, and I would need for my man to be kind. But I will say this, I feel like my answer is going to differ from a lot of people because of the position that I'm in. So I do pretty well for myself. And I've had people come to me and say, don't you ever feel like, you would want a man that makes XYZ because you make XYZ? And my answer is always, well, actually, because I make what I make, I feel like I have the privilege of dating the nice guy, because I don't have to rely on a person to get what I want, because I can buy everything I want every day. So I don't know, like, I don't have those check. I feel like my check boxes would look a little different, but I would need a man to make me feel loved, appreciated. I need them to show up. That's the kind of men that I've always had in my life. My dad and my brother. My dad, if I tell my brother right now my tire is flat, he will literally book a flight from Florida to Georgia just to come look at my tire. So that's the kind of energy I expect from a man. I think the role is, that's what I would expect. A man who shows up, a man who can be there to help and assist and care for you. would be my man's role.
Would that be the same in society?
Yeah, I would say a lot of those are in society, but I would say in society there's probably a lot more that a lot of people would add on top of that.
Give me one example.
To be the sole provider, financial provider for a home.
Okay. Do we want to go in order, or should I answer? Or Hannah, you want to answer that? Let me hear you, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that Mo, that you, like, when you opened it up, you talked about you know, what a man makes or what I make at XYZ, because societally that is like one of the main topics is for a man is his role is to be a provider and to make a certain amount of money, or like usually when in society when you think about what a man brings, it has to do with, you know, monetarily. And in society, a man, his role is to be, you know, strong and providing and, you know, XYZ. But I really think that societally based, a man should, his responsibility is to have a plan or to have some sort of like way that he's going, or whatever that looks like to him individually. To have, you know, some worthy ideals that he's willing to cultivate to, I guess, in a sense, provide some sense of legacy in the world. I think that societally based, that's what we need men for. Is it does have to do with strength, but for me individually, personally in my life, you know, sometimes it looks not opposite to society, but a little bit unconventional to society. And you know, a lot of people could feel the same because society is so general. It's not personal. In my home, I need some of the same things that Mo said. You know, I want to feel loved by my man. I need to feel loved by my man. Also, understanding. That's one of the things that I need. Like, my man's role is to understand. At least be willing to understand and be very open and patient. And because of the fact that I know I'm very sensitive to a lot of different topics, especially things that I'm passionate about, you know, things that drive me, that have to do with the future of my children and career and the matters of the heart. A man's responsibility is to be just, you know, listening and open and, you know, gentle with me, because in society, men can be looked at as, you know, be hard, be strong, you know, don't show too much of yourself. You'll be looked at a certain way. You know, a lot of ego might be involved, societally based, but, you know, that's not something that I require at home. You know, I don't require you to carry around all these false burdens. You know, I want you to be able to carry the weight of the responsibility in this home gracefully. You know, not being too hard on yourself. And, you know, be willing to work together as a, you know, in a partnership. So, yeah.
Okay, good. So we do have another special guest. Surprise, as I surprised last time with the gentlemen, with the men. We have a surprise guest on the line who's going to be representing our younger youth. She will be representing, let me go ahead and say, like 16, 17. And I say 16 and 17 because Bukola and I had a conversation about this. They are not kids, okay? 16, 15, 16. They're not children. We have to understand that. And we have to start showing them how to be adults at a very young age. Way younger. Most countries, society, you know, cultures do. So I do have New on the line. New is representing from 17 or 16 on up to like 20, the early 20s. Hi, New. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Hey,
Good.
New.
Welcome.
So, New, the question or topic of today, and we want to hear your answer to our topic question, which is, what do you think your role is as a woman in your home or going to be when you have your family and in society?
Okay, before she answers a question, hold on. Before she answers a question, I can't wait to hear what her answer is. The replies that the young ladies just gave about, men, the perspective and their roles possibly. I would like to know how you summarize what you heard.
Me?
Yeah. What's your take? What you know about that? Just what's your take? No wrong or right.
So my take on what the lady said, or are you asking for my answer to the same question?
Well, what's your take on how they see it, or how they, what perspective they have about it? What do you see in that, or what do you take from that?
I take that it sounds like, one, it's a little different. They're not necessarily the same, but it definitely sounds like they are providing or want to provide a nurturing environment for their man. They want to be able to let their man know it's okay, I got you. When the world is against you, you can find peace. At home, or you can find peace within me. So they are there to be supporters, you know what I'm saying? The cheerleaders and the nurse, if you will, to bandage them up when the world beats them down and get them right on back out there. I also picked up from what they were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they were created an environment that allowed their men to, or a man that they will have to be, it's okay to be themselves and not to be this fake persona that quote unquote so-called society, I'm not going to put a label on what kind of society, puts out there. They want someone who is genuine, and true and authentic to themselves. And they sounded like they were saying in their home or in their family, they want to be able to create that type of environment for a man to be authentically himself, and to let him know it's okay. You might not have all the answers. We understand. And it's okay for you to be that with me, and we'll figure it out. Now, I hope I sum that up. Was I wrong?
No,
Was
right or wrong,
Okay, but is that in a nutshell what you, Hannah and Mo, were kind of saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I can definitely say that. I think that for me, it's also about creating that environment for myself too, especially like getting tied up with like having 2 kids, having a husband, and then with society too, like just making sure that I'm like looking at myself the way that I see myself and creating that environment of love for me too, and just showing up properly so that I can continue to create that environment for them too. Like a lot of it wherein I'm seeing myself has to do with me checking myself at the door too, so that I can be that person for others.
Yeah, and can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I want to let New go, but I also wanted to add something I skipped, which is protection, and not necessarily in this way where the guy has to be like this big grizzly dude in Avenger fighting off crime, but more so just knowing. Damn, I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me start.
Protection, and not necessarily what society paints for what protection looks like.
Yeah, no, but I had a very specific example I wanted to give of my kind of my vision of what I expect, like in terms of their role. But I'll come back to it when I think of it.
Okay. So, Bukola, should I answer the question, or should we let New answer the general topic of today?
Yeah. But hold on. I ain't done yet. Just one more little piece. All right?
Okay, go ahead.
I get a little, one more from you.
Well, you're the co-host, so go ahead.
All right. So here's. I'm just curious. I'm playing the outside person, and it's always wonderful when there's perspectives being shared. So okay. When you think back to how many times you might have changed your mind or changed your perspective about how you see, uh, how you read or see the value in men, in your life, from your teenage years to your 20s to your 30s, you're still 20 something, right? And so,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
many,
Yes.
what are some ways that your mind has changed about how you see the value in men in general, of your family or household or relationship?
And you speaking to me?
Sure, or anybody.
Let me answer that. That is actually a good question because in my late teens, early 20s, this is funny. Okay, I'm gonna have to tell this.
You feel like candy store.
My perspective of what I felt like I wanted from a man then has definitely changed over experience, over time, over wisdom and maturity. So I remember when I was younger, kind of contrary to Mo, I always said I wanted my man to be this big protector. He needed to be this big grizzly guy. And I always wanted him to be huge. Like, even when I say huge, like 300 plus, I was like,
you want a Debo.
like a teddy bear with this big old, stomach. I want to lay on his stomach, because that to me at that time, because I was such a thin person, symbolized protection and safety. I was like, ooh, I want to be in the teddy bear's arms. That was what I deemed. And he had to be this big macho thug. You know what I'm saying? And now that I'm totally opposite. He needs to be one in shape. Don't have no big pot belly. I'm sorry. That's just not my type anymore. And protection is not just about the appearance or the act of this macho guy or this thug. Protection is also mental, financial protection to make sure our finances is protected. You know how to balance out all of our finances, that we don't go broke or we're not struggling living paycheck to paycheck, and that you're also protecting me from myself, because I could be a spender, as a lot of women are.
That's wisdom.
So being able to help protect me from even myself, of some of the things that I want one day, and then the next month or year, I don't even want that, or that was detrimental to me or our family. So being able to be that wise person to help protect me from myself and help protect me from the world. So wisdom is definitely now what I consider as my macho, but also having courage and strength as well, and being in shape. So I hope that
fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, Mo, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so that actually reminds me of what I was gonna say. That's my exact same answer to the question. I feel like I evolved from the the same mentality around, like, I want this big grizzly dude who can just fix all my problems, throw anybody, fight anybody, hood nigga from Miami. I'm from Miami, sorry.
That's okay.
But I definitely, I definitly evolved far from that, to where protection to me now means like creating a safe space. So like, how as women we navigate the world like constantly looking over our shoulders. We don't leave the house past a certain time, or when you're in the parking lot, you double check your car. You make sure it's not parked directly next to somebody else. Like, creating a space for you to be able to be ditzy or not have your walls up like you usually do, or having a plan, like you said, financially, or just thinking ahead so that we don't fail. Our household doesn't fail. Like, that's what I mean by protection.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that too. My viewpoint of like what I need a man to be definitely changed with time. And I started working at a young age, so a lot of the things that I value did have to do with like monetarily. Like I need my man to make a certain amount. Like, cause for me myself, that's the standard that I kind of held for myself. Like, girl, what are you
Mhm.
doing? You're 18. You need to be out of the house. You need to have your own place. You need to have certain things. So I kind of put those standards on men too, kind of just based off of how I looked at things through a woman's eyes or
Mhm.
my own life, my personal life. And so a lot of the things that I needed from a man were things that I needed out of myself.
Mhm.
That's definitely changed because there are a lot of things that I require, out of my husband that I don't necessarily require for myself in a sense. Like there's a level of also gentleness that I require out of my man, because I was the kind of the same way. Like I need my man to be hard, strong, kind of gravitated toward the thug type, like but my mind definitely changed over time because I realized how I wanted to be cared for,
Mhm.
and it's definitely different than like my level of nurturing, like with the children and how I nurture from my husband. It's a different dynamic than the level of gentleness that I require out of my husband. It has to do a little bit more with like kind of the way that my father treated me as a
Mm.
young child, almost, because like he looked at me like, you're my little princess. And I rarely ever see my dad raise his voice at me or my sister, different than how I seen him with his friends and stuff like that. But he always provided a level of gentleness for me, my mother, and my younger sibling, my
Mhm.
sister. And so there's a level of gentleness that I require from my husband with the way that he speaks and the way that he just carries himself around the home. Just if there's a level of just anger or built up whatever is going on that you had out there at the door, like I want him to be able to express that. But I also require that there be just just a level of gentleness that you know definitely helps
Mhm.
to carry me through life in a relationship. And
Right.
so the whole dynamic of what I need a man to be is like the total flip side opposite of what I feel like I required in the past. Although monetary, providing is important, and I do think that it's a big thing for a man to be out there and making money and helping toward the entire financial stability of a home.
Mhm.
But that's not the main priority, and the actual monetary value. I feel like when you're growing in a relationship, that's something that will kind of when you're not chasing money, it kind of chases after you. If you have a plan and you're successful and you want to go far, I feel like naturally that'll happen. You'll start to attract those things if your mindset is already there. So there's a level of like mental maturing that I also require my man to have, so that monetarily and things like that is just naturally drawn. And what's for you, it'll be for you, no matter what the dollar amount is.
Mhm.
Wow,
Good.
a lot of wisdom in here. That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah. Well,
No,
I
what do
think
you
that.
think?
Uh huh.
Ask New what is if she has thoughts.
Oh, I was a little confused on the question.
So
So
that, yeah. So right now, what you're hearing everyone answer is the original question was, what do you think your role is as a woman in your family, and what you think your role is in the household when you create your own household, or what do you think a woman's role is in society? But the answers you're hearing now is we flipped it and said, what do you think a man's role or your man's role should be or will be in the home as well as in society? Did you want to answer that?
um
Yeah, you got to answer it. You're part of the
You're, you're in a you're,
round table.
you're in a safe place where you're always going to be respected and honored. That's the game.
As I said, there is no right or wrong answer. These are just opinions. This is what you feel because you are representing, younger people. I'm not saying you're representing all of them. Some might have different views than you, but what do you think when you looking for a man, what his role needs to be and will be in your home, in your relationship, and then what his role needs to be in society?
I definitely think in my home, I think two big things is definitely a safe space and a friend. I think I think from my dad, I understand kind of what a provider is, but to me, that's not enough. I want someone I can have an actual emotional connection with, because if you are providing this, that, and a third, a roof over my head and all of that, but that's it. I don't know. That doesn't feel like my partner or my life partner that I want to experience life with. That just kind of feels like, I don't know, I guess my dad. So I think that's definitely something I look forward. Obviously, I do want someone who can provide for me and, help me and cheer me on with my goals and aspirations. I'm very much a big person on kind of wanting to do what my hopes and dreams are. And so I would hope that whoever I did get with can, we can switch and be each other's cheerleaders. And, we have our own times to shine. Rather, if it's him doing something and, I have to take a step back, cheer him on and be the supporter, and then vice versa. Because I think in life, sometimes I might have some highs and he'll have some lows, or he might have some highs and I might have lows. And I just want someone who isn't going to be threatened by myself as a person. I'm a very big personality and I intend to accomplish a lot. So I don't want someone who is so prideful that they can't accept me or want to dim my light because they can't handle that. So that's definitely something I'd want in my own household. As a society, that's very, I think, complicated. I definitely think I agreed what they were saying about society expects them to be, these tough men all the time. And I've definitely had to tell even just my brothers, it's okay to, tell me how you feel and be emotional, be soft, because soft isn't a bad thing. So I feel like I definitely think that's what society expects for every guy to be, is just kind of more, even though they kind of try to say it, or they'll say, oh no, we don't expect that. I think in the end, that's kind of what they expect. If a guy goes online crying, it's not gonna be as well receptive as a girl going on and crying online. A girl, they'll sit here, oh my God, what's going on? All the other, if it's a guy, they're going to kind of, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? He needs to go ahead and talk to someone, figure this out. Don't put this out in public. This is embarrassing. And I definitely don't think that's the case. So I've always tried to at least, with my brothers, let them know that it is okay to be soft, and you don't have to be this big, strong person all the time, because that's not realistic at all. And I definitely think that is kind of an unfair standard to have on men as a society.
Okay. So let me ask you a question.
I just gotta say, she constructed that like
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, she constructed that like building a house.
That was good. Let me ask a question. When you say the word soft, I mean, here's me being a host and playing what they call in the middle, devil's advocate. When you say soft, I mean, do we want our men crying all the goddamn time online and stuff, though? Crying every time we have a conversation, crying every time we watch a movie, crying every time it gets things get difficult. Do we? Is that what you consider soft? And anybody can answer that.
Personally, me, that's not what I consider necessarily soft. I think when I say soft, I mean just not having to be so. I've seen men, especially there was a guy in high school that just looked like he could not feel any other emotion besides pride and anger. And I think that's not what I want as a man. And I think also a lot of people feel like that's what you have to have for men. You either need to be prideful in your work, in your job, in yourself, in your body, or whatever, or angry. Then it's like, okay, yeah, he's just being angry, he's upset, it's whatever. But any other emotion, it's kind of frowned upon. I guess happy is kind of, I feel like even with happiness, it's usually tied with being prideful. Um, and I feel like being soft to me is just, feeling all the emotions a human is supposed to feel. If you want to feel anxious or sad or, frustrated or whatever it is, you can feel that without having to feel like I'm going to look at you some type of way because you're not doing those two emotions that everyone else expects out of, guys.
Right. Good. Yeah. Clarity.
For me, it's like no, I cringe at seeing anybody just crying on social media and always just, being like that. Like it looks like really like attention grabby, because like we should be able to, and that goes back to the home. Like there should be a safe space somewhere in someone's life where they can do that with someone or people who they trust. But there's just too much going on in the world and society for people to lay those types of levels of vulnerabilities out in front of the world because everyone's watching. And I just think that softness for me has to do with almost like a level of like self-control, if that makes sense. Like a person who can control their emotions, is their strength in that, but still being able to lay them out is there's strength in that too. Like people who, like, let's go back to like a person who like, oh, can you protect me? You just fight, like just bucking at everybody that looks at your woman is just, it just seems like there's like a lack of self-control there. And I look at that as like, that's very soft. Like,
Okay.
like you crumple up at just anything. It's like a soft little Twinkie. Like you poke it and it makes a hole. Like that's soft to me. That's soft. Like everything affects you. Like that. Like there's nothing that like a person that can say that's always very defensive. That's very soft to me. Or a person that is easily angered is soft to me. Like if you get poked, it's gonna make a hole.
Yeah.
That's not what I require in a man. Like I want you to be able to speak and articulate yourself, even angry, and speak and articulate yourself, even in sadness, even if you can't hold it all together, like a loss or something like that. I want you to be able to cry, and I want you to know that it is a safe space, but not like you're gonna go into work or you're gonna go out in public and scream at the first person that says something to you, like things like that. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, my turn. I'm waiting for it to be asked.
Please, by all means. Let us know. We're eager to hear.
People took my answer. And it's nice to know that we as women can definitely be on the same page. People definitely took my answer. I think that, and I'm going to be speaking from several. I've experienced both sides, but I'm going to be speaking from a traditional man's role because I look for my specific man to be a traditional man, and he needs to be traditional in society. So I expect my man to be a provider. Okay? Provide, a breadwinner, financially supporting your family through work, your career, your business, what have you. Being a protector. You got to be able to protect me, as I said before. Physical protection as well. And when I say physical protection, not just from no intruder, or a burglar, but also from bugs. You know what I'm saying? There's a big roach or there's a lizard or I'm gonna need you to get that. Don't try to hide behind me and scurry behind me. You know what I'm saying?
Hide behind you. Oh my God.
I'm serious. Protect me from even the smallest things. Be an authority figure. You need to be an authority figure, not only in my eyes, but also in the children's eyes. You know what I'm saying? I need to be able to say, oh, when your father get home, or they need to be like, don't tell dad. You know what I'm saying? Or I need to be able, I like being the one. Have you guys ever, well, some of my listeners out there, but you guys might as well. You guys ever see those people that come to the door, those door salesmen? They want to sell you windows, pest control, carpet, all of that stuff.
Yes, public enemy number one.
Right. I like being saying, oh, my husband's not home. I can't. Well, no, my husband has to make that decision. I like putting the blame on my significant other. Your family members are calling, wanting to borrow some money. I gotta, you guys, I gotta ask my husband. I like being able to put that on him. He is the authority figure. It takes a lot of weight off of me. Being a role model. Please be a role model for your children. Okay? I need my husband to be able, or my man to be a role model to, if we have children, our children, or maybe even a role model to other children in the neighborhood, or being a role model to some of his co-workers at work. You know what I'm saying? A role model to some of his family members, but being a person that has ethics, right? Being a person that can help motivate and encourage other people outside of himself, being a role model. I love to see a man being a role model. Being a supporter. Support me in all of my endeavors, as New was saying. Some things that I might want to do. Be a supporter of me as well. Be a supporter of the children. You might not can make it to every game. You might not make it to every rehearsal or, performance. But support your children in some way. You know what I'm saying? Support, be there. And then, let's see, also helping with co-parenting. Now, I'm not saying he gotta do 50-50, as you be hearing people say. No, you don't have to be 50-50, especially if you are the provider and the sole breadwinner. No, but there will be some times I'm gonna need a break from the children. I need to know that if I leave and go visit my parents, or if I leave and go on vacation, a weekend getaway or whatever, or you even encouraging me to do a weekend getaway, you're not falling apart at the seams. Oh my God, well, you just gonna leave them here? What they gonna eat? What they gonna wear? What if they fall? No, knowing how to help be a co-parent. Leave, baby, I got this. We got it, we'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? I need to know that I can leave my children's safety and health in your hand, and you don't mind stepping up and saying, look, I know you look tired. Go ahead and, turn in early for the night. Go upstairs or whatever. Go in the room. I got this. I'm going to go ahead and do this X, Y, and Z. So helping with co-parent. I don't expect that all the time, like I said, if you are the sole breadwinner. But if I am going out there and I am contributing and I'm working and I have a career as well, yeah, I'm gonna need you to help with that, because you done made me go out there and do your job. And when I say your job, like I said, I'm a traditional person. I've been on both sides, right? I've got to be out there and have my career and everything. I got to be a stay-at-home mom. And at that time, I was like, oh, I don't like it. I hate it. I want to get out. I want a adult conversation, And then I got to be back out there again and have my own business. But when it's all said and done, I was like, oh, Lord, what was I thinking about? I need to get back home. I don't like this. I don't like having certain, this is me personally, I don't like the stress. I don't like the pressures of that hustle and bustle. I don't like the traffic. I don't like the coworkers. That's not for me. I shine more in my home. I shine more being around my children and supporting my children and being, the great woman I could be at home for my family as well as my husband. I like being that particular oracle, if you will, that great person at home, that big dynamic that is the root or the source that gets everybody going, right? So I was speaking from a traditional man standpoint, but that's what I think a man's role is in my home. And I think that that is what a man's role should be in society. Men are the protectors. There's nothing wrong with women who are in the military, but when I think of military, I really see more men doing that. Can y'all imagine if we had a military that was just all women and none of the men ever went out? No, I would have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? By design, they're built stronger than us, right? Sometimes faster than us, mentally stronger than us. So I think that they need to be the protectors in society as well. They need to be role models as well. I need to know that the people, down the street, the children down the street might come and say, Mr. So and such here. Or, I have where some of my neighbors might come and say, yeah, is such and such, is your husband or, home? Can he help with this? Because they might not have a man, but they know that I have a man and they know he could do X, Y, and Z. So that's being a role model or, helping be involved in the community. You know what I'm saying? Volunteering and helping where he can. So I just think everything I expect for a man in my home, I think he should be that in society in some form or way, shape, or form. Okay? That's my answer.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, New, we didn't get to hear what you think your role is as a woman or will be as a woman in your family.
I think as a woman in my family,
When you have your family.
I definitely think being a nurturer, I definitely feel like already I was assigned that role as being the oldest sister. So already kind of practicing. But I think being just, a nurturer and being a safe space wherever I'm at, I would want my husband and my kids to just be like, I wish, New was here. I wish mom was here, whatever the case may be, because I would just want to bring that type of comfort in life to situations, rather if they needed it. So I definitely feel like being a nurturer and being that safe space, kind of like a light post, or what is it? What's those light things in the oceans?
Beacon.
A lighthouse or
yeah, beacon. That's what I would want to be. That you see that and it kind of just, you feel a little more okay and safe and a little more comfort in any situation. I would want my family to want me to be there through the good and the bad, know that I can support them through the bad and help them get through whatever, but also know that during the good moments I'll cheer them on, and we can celebrate that. So I definitely think those would be, I guess that's my expectation or whatever.
Okay, great. Next question.
So let me bring the next question. What do you think has been the toughest aspect or experience of your role? And I'm going to start with the host.
The toughest aspect and experience of my role. On the job training.
Oh, wow.
Still learning and figuring it out, right? I done already jumped into being a wife. I done already jumped into being a mother. And I was still learning. And I made many mistakes. And that's hard because I'm not always comfortable with everyone seeing my mistakes. I think I'm supposed to be this perfect mom or this perfect wife or a perfect daughter or perfect sister or whatever. So that's been my toughest role, is not being prepared to take on my role as a mother, and not being prepared to take on my role as a wife, because I just wasn't, you know, I wasn't prepared. And that's not to discredit my parents, not to discredit my mother. I was raised in basically, I had many different stepfathers and then single parent household. And I didn't get to see what a successful relationship or marriage looked like. So I had to figure it out once I got in there. Once I got married, I had to figure it out on the job training. I'm not saying I didn't get to see what a successful mother was or parent was, but my mom worked 2, 3 jobs, because when, the men weren't there, or sometimes even when the men were there, because of certain choices she may have had. She didn't get to be that hands-on type mother. So I didn't get to see that. But I knew I wanted that for my children. So I had to learn that. What did that look like? I was trying to fit in a role while I was on the job, and it was kind of uncomfortable. There was, like I said, a lot of mistakes that was made. I questioned everything, even when my husband tried to help me and tell me exactly what the best way to go about it. I didn't have trust there. Nah, I don't believe you. You're just trying to control me. You're trying to manipulate me. You're just trying to do, you know what I'm saying? Once I got older and went through life, I realized a lot of stuff he was saying was correct. You know what I'm saying? Could have saved us a lot of, heartaches, money, and whatever else, but I had to learn. So I think that was my toughest aspect of being a woman, was not being prepared for my role ahead of time and on a job training, if you will.
Fantastic.
Let's get Hannah. You answer the same question. What do you think is the toughest aspect of your role as a woman?
Heavy on I made a lot of mistakes as well, because just never been married before, going into marriage, also being prepared and having the tools. I also can relate to that, because my parents were together for 13 years, and I saw a very nurturing relationship though. I saw my dad love my mom. I saw my mom care for and nurture my father. And, as a child, I thought they had the perfect relationship. They were never married, but, 13 years is a long time to be with someone. And I never knew the difference.
Common law marriage.
Yep. I never, I always assumed that they were married.
Yeah.
And so that's what my example was. And so, but, growing up and then them not being together, I had a couple stepfathers too, and, my mom's happily married now, but just looking back, it was also like being not prepared. Another thing for me was just because I have a few, examples of men that lead, like everyone on my mother's side of the family are married. My mom was the last one to get married out of 10 children.
Wow.
And my grandparents were together for 60 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather is 98 years old.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yes. My grandmother, she passed away in 2023 of April. And she passed away at 94 years old.
Wow.
And they had a beautiful marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the example they set for all their kids. My mom was the only one to have a child outside of wedlock. Mm-hmm. And they stand on very strong Christian beliefs. Mm-hmm. And so I, like, being married, I kind of set the bar a little bit high. Like, this is what I need from you in certain areas. And I had to learn how to grow with my husband, mm-hmm. because I was new to it too. And so I had to learn how to, like, not scrutinize, and how to come from a place of understanding and be more considerate of faults and mistakes, knowing that I'm not perfect. Just being able to show more grace toward my husband and my children too. Like, I can be hard on my kids sometimes, especially my daughter now. She's 8. She's very smart. She applies herself very well. She's a straight A student, and she has a lot going for herself. So I give her a lot of lessons, and I got to remember, like, she's just a kid. Like, and just walk in her shoes, because when I was 8, she's doing a lot of things that I was not doing at 8. Learning piano, in chess club, love school, and very focused. But kids are different now, and having phones and playing games all the time and stuff like that. But just things like that, just being more like not expecting a lot, and knowing that people in my life are designed to be great, but I had to learn how to nurture it properly. Whereas I'm not putting them on such a high pedestal where I don't show the grace, and that caused some conflict and led to a lot of mistakes that I made, in my experience. And that's just with my home. If we're talking about society, and the hardest part about society and being a part of this society, because I don't really view myself as even just being a part of society. Like, it's just like, it feels weird to even say, because I'm not big on social media, and I have a very close inner circle. And, I care so much about my home. I'm not just going to let anyone into it. But in society, I think that I did make a lot of mistakes in the past trying to fit into society and figure out where I belong in society, until my mindset kind of switched, where it's like, okay, maybe I don't necessarily belong in society per se, where I have to kind of put myself there and make myself blend into what this is, but more so of, I create my own reality, and then the society that I see around me is kind of built off of what I've already been able to display. And so now it's a little bit parallel, where I can't even say that living, or my role in society, that there are struggles and challenges with being in society, except for the fact that I have a lot of contradicting mindsets when it comes to society. And sometimes that can cause friction with, like, people who I used to go to school with, or people that I meet on a daily basis that I might strike a conversation up with, and just contradicting mindsets, thoughts. So I guess now the hardest part about society is being, I guess, cordial, or at this point, I just listen to people's mindsets. I don't debate with people.
Yeah.
That's another thing that it can be hard, like debating. I don't debate anymore, because it can become.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. New, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think has been, or could be, the hardest aspect of being a woman? Your role as a woman.
I think my hardest role of being...
The hardest aspect of your role.
I'm sorry if you guys hear noise in the back. Someone's under my door and screaming. I think my hardest part was, I think there was 2. I think growing up, I was treated very much and raised to be a very soft girl, and not really have any worries, because it was like, oh, daddy's gonna take care of everything. And then to kind of have that almost ripped away, it kind of I had to adjust. And I think it made me become this overly, maybe masculine and overly protective person, that I think sometimes trying to remind myself to be in touch with my feminine side personally is kind of a hard, or like a tough thing for me. I think that's probably the biggest one, just kind of having to remind myself, even if I have been with a guy, I'm so now used to being, no, this is how it's going to be. This is what it is. Also being the oldest daughter, I kind of had to do that at home. And so to expect or to have people say like no to me, and they're like, no, that's not what it's gonna be, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. So I think to have that kind of switch, especially now being out in the real world, and not everyone grew up the way I did, so they don't even understand why I have the mindset that I have. I think that has kind of been trying to learn to adapt to accepting that, okay, I have to probably try to reel some of this back, maybe channel it in a different way that's, more helpful, I guess, for me, and that can bring me forwards and further. I think also another one is just being a sister, a big sister, is such a difficult role that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because you are second in command after mom. It's like, okay, I mean, obviously the parents, but especially when you have a lot of siblings, if mom's not there and dad's not there, they're looking at me to what's going on. I remember so many times I've had to bandage up my siblings in one way or another, but I'm like freaking out because I don't even know what's going on. And I'm like, oh my God. But I have to be strong and kind of suck up my tears and try not to freak out, because if I freak out, then my siblings are freaking out. So I think that's also been a struggle, is trying to learn to be a good big sister and a good role model for my siblings, that they can feel comfortable enough to come to me for anything, but also being able to, set those boundaries and stuff, and then recognize I'm not the mom, I am the older sibling, and I will do my role. But it's like, I think sometimes I feel like I'm either, or sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough or I'm doing too much. So I think kind of figuring out what that role exactly is for me and my siblings is also very difficult.
Okay, finding a good balance. Mo, what do you think the toughest aspect of being a woman would have been or is for you?
The role of a woman.
The toughest aspect of your role as
of my role.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, it was probably like a learning curve, because for one, I actually, like, I didn't always feel comfortable being super feminine. Not like, just as a girl in general, but like feminine in relationships. And then, like, because I don't feel like that space was created for me. Like, if you don't have a man who, if you have a man who makes you feel embarrassed to cry or invalidates you when you are upset or things like that, you are almost ashamed of your feminine traits. And I feel like I've been in those kind of situations before. And it wasn't until recently where I've experienced a situation where I could truly be myself. And so it was like a learning curve, even coming into that and being able to truly be myself as a woman and coming into my role as a woman. And then honestly, as weird as it sounds, I never even considered what the man's role was, or that a man even had a role at all, because my mom played every role in my household growing up. So she was the sole provider. And like, I know my dad, I have a really, really great relationship with my dad by choice. Like, fantastic. He's one of my best friends. That was a choice as an adult, but he lived nearby, so I knew him. But he wasn't involved. He didn't know what schools I went to. He didn't provide financially or anything like that. So my mom was my sole provider, and simultaneously, she was the happiest, kindest, bubbliest person ever. Like, anybody who meets my mom is like, oh my God, like, I can't even breathe. Your mom is the nicest person I've ever met. Like, she's so feminine. She's so kind. She's so loving. She's so joyful. But she also is like, can run a house like a military. She also can show up and sacrifice like only a mother could. Like she literally did the whole thing. So I feel like there was a huge learning curve in even figuring out that I don't have to do everything myself, and even coming into that role in the first place. And then another thing, and I don't know if this is like on topic, but I think another really hard part, and this is me being vulnerable, I kind of feel a little bit resentful of a woman's role, of my role as a woman, because I feel like a woman's role keeps changing, and it keeps increasing, you know, and it's like, I feel like a woman's role gets redefined based on whatever the man needs. When the men go off to war, they run the propaganda machine and create the domestic housewife in the 1950s. Then they come back and they say the economy can't run if the woman is not in the office too. And, you know, and then we start doing it together. And of course, feminism and the movements and us fighting for equality in the workplace all contributes. But studies are showing that the quality of life for women is decreasing, and women who are married are worse off than when they're single. Because you know, we talk about 50-50, but if you are both working 8 hours a day, and then the woman comes home and she's the only one cooking and cleaning and making the bed and doing the laundry, you know, it's only one of us has 2 full-time jobs. So I'm just a little bit careful to accept like an umbrella definition of a woman's role. So I don't want to be resentful about that, but I'm open to, and I'm really like appreciating conversations like this, because I want to see both sides come to a definition of a woman's role that I'm more comfortable with.
So I have a question about that. You know, when someone is, you know, brave and, you know, clear in themselves enough, you know, to say that they're in a vulnerable, you know, moment or space before that they go into a detail, I think that that's something to really appreciate.
Yes,
I think that it's something that, you know, we should, you know, pick up the value of. And so listening to that, maybe there's something to learn right here, you know, especially if men, you know, if men are listening, or, you know, whoever might be listening, there might be something to learn. So from your perspective, where do you feel the pressure, or the friction comes in when you get feedback, or you get the noise from the world or from society about what we're expecting out of women, or what we're expecting out of females? Like, what are some examples of those, you know, of that noise or that burden that seems to get placed on you as a female or a woman, you know?
Yeah, I think you notice it when you realize that if you answer the same question on 2 different sides of the spectrum, you get criticized either way. So if I notice it, if a man asks me, what do I want in a relationship? And I say, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, and I want a man to provide for me. And he says, oh my God, women are such gold diggers. Women don't want to do anything for themselves anymore. They just want a rich man. But then if you go on the opposite side of the spectrum and you say, I want to be a provider, and I expect my man to, you know, pick up some slack and help around the house, then, you know, you kind of have to enter those conversations about like, well, that's a woman's role and the woman should do the nurturing, and that's just not, I just can't do that as a man, and that's just what you should do. And it just feels like you can't win. I feel like that's when I kind of feel it, is when I've noticed that there's no right answer to the question.
Okay.
And can I please? Can I please? Go ahead.
Yo,
because that was a good question you asked. I want to answer.
Hold on. Pause. So I'm on to something here. You know, I think we can learn a lot out of this. I know you got something, you know, that I know is gonna you know, expand this greatly. But okay, those were great points made. Now, is it possible that neither are wrong? Is it possible that both of these roles could fulfill the role of a woman, according to who you are? Is it possible that there's somebody for everyone? You know, where do we begin with not identifying with other people's criticism? You know,
I completely agree. That's why earlier I didn't want to keep repeating it, but I say it even in my real life all the time. Like, it's one of my most common phrases that people are not one size fits all. Relationships are not one size fits all. I hesitate to assign roles to people because I don't think there is a right answer. I think you just find whoever you're compatible with personally. But I think we also have to be realistic about today's economy. Most people are not sole proprietors. Most people are working an office job. They're working a 9 to 5, men and women, and simultaneously, in most marriages and most partnerships that involve children, women are expected to pick up most of the slack.
Okay, Hope, what were you gonna say about that previous point?
Me?
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I wanted to attest to what Mo was saying. That is also one of my toughest aspects of being a woman is, like I said, knowing exactly what that is. For example, as she said, I came from a single parent household. I saw my mom cover down, as Mo said, and be the breadwinner, and she killed the bugs. And if we heard something at night, she got up and checked and da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? So she had to fulfill both roles. I learned that. I knew how to be that. When I got married, I had to shed that, what I grew up seeing, to become what my husband wanted, at the time, was a more feminine woman. Well, I didn't know what that was. He would always say, well, you're not feminine. You need to be more feminine. What is that? What does that mean? And I would ask, and it was, oh, you need to be more dependent on me. You need to be, so you want me to lose my strength. That's all I heard. You want me to lose my strength of who I was as a woman. But then on the flip side, because he traveled a lot and I was always raising the children, by myself, there, I had a running joke all the time that I would always say, I'm a single parent, because he was always gone. He would always say, yeah, that's what you do. I like that you cover down. See, I know I could leave things in your hand. I know you gonna make it work. I know you gonna fix it. Okay, that's why, that's my strength. I had to when I was growing up. So, but that's the very thing you say is too masculine. That's the very thing you say on another argument or conversation. I'm being too masculine. I'm trying to act like a man. Well, you've left me in that role to be a man. But then, as soon as you come home, I'm supposed to throw on my apron and my skirt. You know what I'm saying? Put the ranch down because I had to fix the toilet because you was gone. It's back and forth. I'm confused about how and what I'm supposed to be. It's not easy to be strong when I need to be strong and say, oh, well, my husband's not here, then I got to pick up and be the strength for the children and the strength for the household. And then when he comes to say, oh, okay, well, let me just be, Becky. And then I would always hear, well, see, Black women don't know how to be feminine. Black women are so masculine. And I will agree to a point. Not all Black women. There's a lot of Black women out there that's very masculine. But we are not afforded the luxury to be able to operate in our femininity often, because we don't have that ability to be a stay-at-home mom oftentimes in our community because of financial reasons. Either we're single parents, or the husband is just not, husband or boyfriend or whatever, is just not making enough money on his own. It needs to be a two income household. So you want me to get out there and deal with people's crap? You know what I'm saying? I have to put on this tough exterior so that I don't crumble out here in this world. And but then come home and figure out how to be soft and delicate because you need me to be soft and delicate. If I was able to stay at home and figure out what that was and operate in that on a regular, then you might have more femininity often. So I understand what Mo is saying. I'm confused. Sometimes you want us to be strong. Sometimes you want us to be what they call a boss bee or whatever, ride or die. But then, it's so funny with I think of a song, and we're gonna have a topic on that, a podcast on that with the words of music. But I know SZA had a song where she talked about she's gonna hide the body, she'll take the gun, she'll do all of that. That takes a very strong, to me, masculine type woman. But you then, what I'm sure a man is going to want her to be dainty and feminine in some type of way as well. Maybe we don't know what the true definition of femininity is. I don't know. But that is a very hard thing for women. We don't know which role or which way to play. It's hard to know which way to operate and where to be comfortable at. Because it's like a man may say one thing one day, but want something totally different the next day. Hence, this is why they going out there. Sometimes, not everybody, going out there because they might see a more of a feminine woman that attracts their eye, even though you got a down woman at home. I don't know, but that is very hard in this society now.
Okay, so I want to try to organize what's put out. So, with what was just put out, it was a lot, and it's great, that it was a lot. But no, really, really was. So, if I was to organize this point, could it be that there's a lack of clarity about what am I expected to do here? What am I expected to do with my gifts, with my strengths? I don't want to be criticized for my gifts and strengths, or I don't want to be alienated for my gifts and strengths. And it seems like you, man or men, could possibly be offended by it. You're not making up your mind, and rather or not it's what you want me to do or how you want me to do it. Is it a communication thing that could possibly solve the problem, or is it a thing of identity? Being clear on one's identity that solves the problem. Where do you think we start with finding a peace of mind with that crisis? If I'm making any sense.
You are.
That made sense. I don't know if I have an answer to it, but that made sense.
I think it's going to definitely start with communication. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I think that it will lead to communication. I think it starts with identity for us to figure out who we are as people, so that when we go into these relationships, that we have real expectations of ourselves and of one another. Because I believe that in relationships, it's very fluid, that, based off of, like Mo said, economy that plays into it. And some of it has to do with feelings, because sometimes I feel like I would thrive better. Sometimes I actually do thrive better in the home. And sometimes I do thrive better when I'm out there working, because it's kind of like been conditioned from a young age. So it just depends. But like you said, some of us have not been afforded the luxury, but I like for there to be a luxury to choose. But yes, communication, but also yes, identity. So that you can speak from a true place when you are in these relationships, and not just what society thinks, or it always starts with the way that a person was raised and what they carry throughout life and into their relationships, such as being the breadwinner, or working a job, or am I comfortable with being the person that's providing and killing bugs? And I think Mo, your mom, was a really good example of being able to hold the fort down and still perform or still be in her femininity and in her feminine energy. And in my honest opinion, just from my own experiences and even just in my relationship, that my role as a woman, especially when it comes to femininity, has to do not just with my role, but my treatment to myself and others and to my husband. You know, you can perform in what people call a masculine role, like working and providing for the home and holding the fort down if it calls for it, but still being able to treat your husband, yourself, your children with that nurturing that makes you a woman and that makes you a wife, and still be able to love and respect and not be so hard-bodied whereas one thing might maybe looked at as you're not feminine is, you know, yelling and arguing and being so like tough skinned in a matter of like not being vulnerable or emotional or hiding your emotions. You know, those things make you a feminine woman. But a lot of those experiences strip a woman of those things because they're forced to do them, if that makes sense. Like you said, not having the luxury to experience being home and solely just nurturing for children. But some women don't even feel comfortable in that role. They don't even feel like they thrive just being a stay-at-home mom, or a woman who, and I will account for this, that some of it we don't know until we actually experience it. I don't know if I'll thrive as a stay-at-home mom if I never get the luxury to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know if that'll make me more feminine, or if that even feels like a genuine role, quote unquote, that I should be performing in. So I think it's situationally based, but I think with experience and with being able to communicate and articulate yourself properly in your relationships, then we can say, okay, this is your role as my woman. This is your role as my man. You know, instead of this is just your role and I need you to be in it and it doesn't matter how you feel in it. We should pay attention to the way that we feel when, and the way that we're responding to these roles or these responsibilities when we're actually in them.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
I think it hurts though, like when you do have that communication internally, but you still feel it's like you still bear the weight of societal expectations. So as an example, I'm an engineer. I wake up at like between 5 to 7 a.m. I work a 9 to 5 job. I am a regular civilian. I go to work with a bunch of bros, crypto bros, all American bros, and deal with them all day. I was the only woman in the engineering department. And then I come home and I either do HelloFresh, which is very basic meals, or I order food. I don't want to cook after working that kind of job. And I don't want to work that kind of job anymore, but that's what I do. And I've had that kind of communication in a relationship where it was like, you know, I'm most likely not going to come home and cook, and it was understood why and it made sense why, but you still feel like you're gonna have the matriarchs of his family asking, well, do she cook for you? Did she cook you up a good meal? What's she doing over there, starving you? Like, you know, it's like you're still bearing the weight of the societal expectations, even if you have that communication within your relationship. So you still can't avoid that. And so at what point does the man who, let's just say hypothetically, if the person wasn't paying rent or had a job that worked the same hours or less hours and still wasn't cooking, but the pressure is still on me to cook, at what point am I allowed to feel like that's not fair?
Okay, so this is really good. This is really good. Um, I have to, add another question if you don't mind. Please. So, is it possible, okay, that your relationship is your contract, and every person might be, responsible for putting the other party on notice on the terms of their contract? It's like when person A meets person B. Hey, listen, I got this going on, and this is the way that I have to operate. You know, um, this is the way I, have to exist or coexist. Uh, what's your outlook on that? What do you feel about that? What do you think? And with that being said, we advocate for our own contracts when we bring them to the table, and it's always an offer. It's never a force. It's always an offer. Is can this work for you? Is this what you want? Is this going to work well for you? Does this offend you? You understand? How does your family feel about it? Oh, okay. So what are their views with it? And once you have done that, uh, if the contract is between you and that person, both persons may have to advocate for each other. You know, um, I'm okay with her, doing this. She has a lot going on. She has a lot of demands on her. We make it work the best way we can. This is what we came up with. We learn to be happy with it. It actually works well. Those type of things, those type of conversations. Do you think that, maybe these days the traditional values can still be the same, but perhaps they take different forms? Perhaps they take different expressions. Maybe we're supposed to evolve how we express those same values. You know, Conditions and circumstances change in this world. What do you guys think about that?
I completely agree. I think, but I think that still solves for internal expectations. And my problem, and like my earlier comment on like resentment, is more towards outside expectations. Like even if you draw up these contracts and everything is resolved between the two parties, there's still this weight of what the world expects of you and what the families expect of you. And I think that's where like those feelings come from.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that. Societal. That's when we were talking about what do you think the role is in society of a woman and the role of a man is in society? Because at the end of the day, society still paints a picture, you know, of ideal roles of male and female. And as Mo was saying, you know, eh, to what you were saying, Ifabukola, we might have a contract that says, hey, I don't know how to cook or I'm too busy to cook, and so we had an understanding I'm not going to be the one that's cooking. You know what I'm saying? But as she said, the parents, what if he comes from a household where his mom was a stay-at-home mom and she cooked and provided everything? So the parents might say, oh, she's not cooking for you, what?
Yeah,
And
you're right.
you know what I'm saying? And then he's like, no, mom, we have an understanding. She's this, she's that. Nah, you come over here and get a meal. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. Society is still going to put that on you. So hopefully that man or that woman is strong enough within themselves to not let society influence them negatively and say no, like you said, Ifabukola, this is what we have, this is what works for us. But you can't help but wonder, where is other pressures coming from, negative pressures coming from?
That's the revelation of this whole forum.
Yeah.
Is the revelation of this whole forum, it seems to be coming to a head at your relationship versus societal opinion. public opinion, public scrutiny, you understand? Things of that nature, living up to other people's standards. Do we have a codependency, emotional codependency, okay, on what the internet approves of, on what our families approve of? Do we have an emotional dependency on that? You know, because perhaps we're at a stage in our human development or growth or evolution, okay, where we're supposed to learn to be, to honor the authenticity of every person and every union, every relationship, that we can't have an assumption about what it means and how it operates. You know, if they found a way to harmonize, to take care of each other, then their attributes showed up somehow, in the way that works. Women are nurturing, they have the wiring to just naturally show up that way, to be advocates, to make things roll smoother, to bring efficiency to every operation. They're just wired that way. So rather they're coming in from work or they don't work at all, they're still going to be that person. It's just showing up in different ways that could be disguised to people who don't have an open mind. You understand?
Yeah. So guys, what we're going to do is, and this has all been great. But for the second time, I'm going to ask a few more questions so that I can bring us up to a close for this first part one. I have so many more questions. We did so well. We did so good. I have so many more questions. So I'm going to have to definitely have you all come back for part two, because I definitely want to pick your brain. I want to hear more about your perspective on this. But I'm going to ask a few more questions, and I want it to be kind of quick responses, if you will, for the sake of time. I'm going to ask, what is the biggest threat to your role? I'll answer first on this one, and then you can give it your answer. And let's try to make our answers short and sweet, but exact. The biggest threat to my role is thirsty women, other thirsty women.
See your word. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay.
I'm for real. Thirsty women. My role, I gotta be this and this and that. But you got these thirsty women out here to be like, oh, she don't cook for you, I'll cook for you. Oh, she don't rub your feet, I'll rub your feet. She'll be, they swearing they about to be a genie, in a bottle. And sometimes some of these men can get caught up with all that. Nu, what do you think it was the biggest threat to your role?
I think men with a toxic mindset.
Explain that a little more. Men with a toxic mindset.
How you said kind of thirsty women or whatever. I believe and I would hope that, the guy that I have that is for me, that won't faze them at all. Because, I think pretty women all over have guys that, can sit here and throw themselves at you and throw money at you and whatever. But I think it's a little more, for some reason, it seems to be a little more easier for women to, kind of focus on, no, my man, that doesn't matter. That doesn't faze me. And I would hope that, my man would have that same mindset. So if you don't have that mindset and you're always looking for more, something better than something else, that mindset would be a threat to my role.
Okay. Mo, what do you think is the biggest threat to your role?
I actually don't have an answer to this question. I appreciate y'all's answers.
Hannah, what do you think?
Biggest threat. I think it might be like temptations, personal temptations, or just whatever that looks like. So, people maybe like look at other people's lives and be tempted to have some of the things that other people have. Like comparing yourself is very dangerous. Comparing yourself to other people's lives is dangerous because, you may feel you want something that you don't have. So whether that looks like the temptation to be, selfish and only think of yourself and just travel the world alone. And that may be a thing you can achieve, but it's just the way you go about doing it. And like temptations to be single, temptations to whatever, temptations to just buy whatever you want, knowing that you got to stay disciplined, just, I think temptations are the biggest threats.
Good. Okay. Mo, how can men help with assisting you? How can your man help with assisting you in your role?
Just showing up. I feel like I love in acts of service, and I like to receive love in acts of service. I feel like the men in my life are traditional men who show up, and I've learned that they're my role models. That's my expectation.
Okay. Hannah, what do you think? How can a man or your man help assist you in your role?
Probably by being inquisitive, asking questions, being understanding, just being a good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. New. What do you think a man can do to help assist you in your role?
I think just being a good emotional support system for me, someone I can come to for anything, and rather if it's just to listen or to give good advice and be that rock for me.
I think a man can help assist me in my role by being, I'm going to have to say, a great communicator. I love communication. And communication is not just a speaker, but a good listener. So, yeah, a great communicator. All right. Do you think that men are delusional of what their role is?
That made me laugh. I'm sorry.
A delusion of what their role is?
Yeah.
I think in some form, yes. I don't think it's all their fault. I think society does play a role in that. Mm-hmm. But in some areas, most definitely.
Okay. Hannah?
Delusional? Maybe. I don't think they're delusional. I really don't. I just think that they're just doing what they think is right at the time, or they're doing what feels right at the time. I don't think that makes a person necessarily delusional. But I feel like a person who's willing and open to learn makes them smart.
Mm-hmm. And Mo?
1,000,000,000,000,000% yes. I think they are so delusional in their roles, and I don't mean this to be offensive, but I think that the roles of women are very tangible. I think the expectations are very harsh and real. Do this when you get home, take care of those kids, take care of that kind of problem, show up to the schools, talk to the teachers at the conferences, parent-teacher conferences, and then the men believe their expectation is to fight off some imaginary situation of a home intruder or a dragon. I think they're extremely delusional. Like, it's just protector role, and this protector role is always against some hypothetical scenario.
Well, I think that do I think that men are delusional? Not all men, but a majority. A lot of men, I feel like, are delusional in what they what they think their role is as a man. I think some men just like, I'm a lion, I'm a man, hear me roar, and that's it. That I'm a man. What does that mean exactly? You know what I'm saying? So I think that just because they have deeper voices and might be stronger or whatever, I think that there's some type of delusion there. But like I said, I will say for a lot of men, but not all men. Okay, last question for the evening. Oh my gosh, we got so many questions. Let me leave off on a good one. Do you think men of other nationalities or cultures know their role and know how to operate in their role more than the black man? I'm going to start with Mo on this one.
I'm gonna say no. And I think a lot of time, Black people have a tendency to they almost put our community down by trying to lift us up. Sometimes we'll look at a problem and be like, see, white people don't do that, but they absolutely do. Well, see, I know I'm trying to keep it short. I know we don't have time. But
No, go ahead. No, take your time. Go ahead.
Example, we'll look at a sexually promiscuous Black woman and be like, oh, see, white kids ain't doing that. The white community wouldn't have so-and-so doing that. But I went to a PWI and my white university had its own strain of chlamydia. Its own strain. It produced its own strain of chlamydia because white students be doing what they do. And so I think a lot of times Black people would be like, we'll take an issue in our community and just be like, well, that kind of men don't talk to their wives like that. Go look up the 4B movement. Look at how Korean women are fighting back. Look at how white women are feeling about white men and how look at their rates of domestic violence. Like it's not exclusive to the Black man. And I think it almost hurts the Black man for us to portray that.
Okay. Hannah, same question.
Okay, I 100% agree with Mo, because I think that in other cultures, there are other problems that other cultures deal with, especially in roles and dealing with men and with women. It's just other issues and other problems and like things that we don't necessarily deal with so much as, too heavily in like our community. Like you got problems of incest, you got problems of pedophilia, you got problems of domestic violence, you got problems of drug abuse, you got problems of problems in the workforce area, where women don't feel like they have the strength, power, or even option and opportunity to go and work, even if it's their passion. Women dealing with that in other cultures. And I think that it's just a matter of every culture has its own issues, and a lot of them we don't get to see. But we do get to talk to women and men alike from other cultures that deal with other issues that we may not have seen, or that even some that they may not have seen in the Black community. But it's unfair to say that other cultures don't have them, and that we have them because we're a Black community.
Okay, New, same question.
Can you reiterate?
Do you think that men of other nationalities know their role and how to operate in their role more than the Black man?
No, I don't think it's more. I think Black men, especially in, African American Black men, have so much to deal with that other races necessarily don't have to deal with. Every race has their, struggle, but I think to be a Black man, especially in America, is such a hard, difficult thing itself. It's not fair to try to compare, certain races based off that role, because I feel like some, especially white men or any men of lighter skin complexion, doesn't have to always worry about certain things just walking down the street. They don't necessarily have to worry about, fearing for their life if a police officer walks past them. They can go and do certain things that Black men just don't have the luxury of doing. So I think, no, they don't necessarily know how to play their role better than Black men. Because I think if they necessarily had those same struggles, they probably wouldn't be as quote unquote good as they play their role as some people might say that they do.
Okay.
That was a really good question.
Thank you. I'm going to answer that same question. I'm going to repeat it. Do you think that men of other nationalities know their role and how to operate in their role more than the Black man? Two-part question for me. I'm going to split it up, and I'm going to say yes. I know. Gasp. I think that more men of other nationalities know their role as a man. They know their role. I feel like in their culture, their society, their role as a man has been spelled out more. They've got to see examples of that more than the black man, because a lot of the black men were raised by single parents, women. The fathers were not there, so they didn't get to get the example of the role of a father as a black man, or the role of a father in general, or a man of the house, a provider, a nurturer, or whatever. Indians, East Indians, Asians, um, you know, Hispanics, Latinos, Italians, Arabs. They all know their role as a man. Now, do they know how to operate in their role more than the black man? I'm not going to say yes to that. That's relative, because as you guys said, they make mistakes. They do things wrong. They got domestic violence. They got heavy drug use. They got infidelity. They got, a lot of things too. And they might not even be performing in their role as they should. So I'm not going to say they know how to operate in their role better than the black man, because the same way the black men don't know, not all black men, but a lot of black men don't know how to operate in their role as the man of society or the man of their house. It's the same way some of these people don't know how to, but I think they know their role as a man because their society, their culture has gave them that example and has spelled it out for them more than the black community. That's my take on that.
I agree with that. I definitely see. I think my main answer was for, what did you say? The second part of yours. But I definitely do agree. It is a bit more emphasized in other cultures of what exactly a man is supposed to be, rather if they feel that role or not. I definitely know in some Asian cultures, it's impolite for the children or whoever to pay. It's supposed to only be the father, no matter who it is, no matter if the kids are grown now, they can be 30 years old and have more money than the parents. It doesn't matter. It's still impolite for anyone else to pay besides the father. So I definitely think, it's a bit more spelled out and more in their face, more, and they kind of, sometimes they have the luxury to kind of put that role, make it more known than black men. So I do agree with what you were saying.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think it's more defined. They don't, like you said, I would agree. I would concede to that. They know it, but they might not operate in it as better.
Okay. Ifa Bukola, you've been awfully quiet. Any last words you may have? Any comment?
Well, men's roles in our community definitely has a lot of blurred lines, and the capability is there, the capacity is there, but I think what is struggled for is the sense of empowerment, the clarity on it, and the confidence in it. And our communities have been, alienated and estranged from the family unit, for being familiar with the family unit, in touch with the family unit, having stability, confidence, and strength through the family unit, the institution of the family unit. So since, the same story again of the unfolding of the family unit's demise, since the 60s, they had to put a stop to that. We were accomplishing too much. We were getting too far ahead. We were getting too strong, too big for our britches, huh? And somebody had to put a stop to that. So the family unit got split right down the middle. Boy versus girl. It's brilliant the way that it was engineered over us. We're at a point now where we're doing it to ourselves, because I don't think that we have to allow that to continue to be the case. But when we're enabling and promoting single life culture, individualism, not showing up as a family unit, not honoring marriage as we probably should, then these are the consequences. These are the symptoms of not having family. Nobody knows their role. Nobody knows what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it. It's confusing. And then the frustration of that turns in some righteous anger where everybody's pointing the finger. Hey, you're supposed to do this. Well, I'm supposed to do it. Well, I'm over here struggling with this. What about that? And something interfered with nature. And one day we gotta possibly step back and pay attention to it and be intentional and deliberate on working against that continuing, in our life. Marriage is the first institution, and it informs how we show up in business, how we show up in politics, how we show up to the world. And it constantly clarifies and sharpens our understanding of our identity and what roles we're supposed to play. And the children can inherit that wisdom and intuition generation after generation. So no one is better at doing things than us. It's just that most of them have the advantage of coming from a family unit where there was man, woman, and child, not just woman, according to how they engineered us to be. So, I think we could do more to overcome that,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question to Ifa Bukola and our hosts?
Uh-huh.
To the both of you, I would like to ask, what is one thing, like a major thing about the roles of men and women that you want to make sure is not lost, from generation to generation, or one thing that you feel like your generation was missing that you have hope that our generation will pick up or learn from you guys or something?
Very good question. You can go first.
Then you're gonna do that to me. Ooh, okay. That's a 2-part question. The first part, you said, what is one thing? Repeat it for me. I'm sorry. What is one thing that? What?
one role about the roles of men and women. One big thing that you want to make sure that we carry into the next generation, and it could either be something that you feel like was lost, that wasn't present, that you hope that we do better than the previous generation, or something that the previous generations had and you hope that we don't lose.
Working together. Being together and working together. That was lost. We need to work on bringing that back. Being a unit. Being undivided. We were able to be conquered because we were divided. If you pay attention to history, that's the first thing they did. They separated us. They removed the man from the house. Took the woman's children oftentimes too. So if we can come back together, work together, strengthen each other, support each other, encourage each other, that's what needs to happen now, currently, amongst all generations. My age group, older than me, with our elders, younger than me, you guys' age groups, and with the youth. And I would pray and like to see that from you guys' generation and younger, to work on bringing that back. That's my answer.
Okay, I like that answer. So what I would say is that I think we begin creating and recreating all over again the same stories when we're not intentional about marriage. when we don't respect marriage, when we don't understand what marriage is or what it's for, what it's about. And we fall into um, creating and generational curses all over again, covenants all over again. When we get into the game of promiscuous activity, um, hypersexuality, consenting with each other and subjecting each other to all kind of burdens and traumas behind, our attempts at relationships that is just wired in fun, in thrill or gratification. So I think that sex has to become sacred again. It has to be treated and spoken of as sacred, and the things that lead up to it. You know, there needs to be less romanticizing of dating, because now it's like, what does dating mean? Just having fun, just hanging out, you know? Is it supposed to progress into courting? Is it supposed to progress into, engagement, and then marriage? Why? Why are you dating? So it's in that atmosphere where the accidents happen, the whoops. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, my bad. Well, it's too late. 18 years later, and you hate each other, but you had great sex, you know? So what I have seen all my life is recreating that same story all over again. And I think that we are more than capable of ending that story and starting a new chapter where we can prioritize and honor marriage and not enable, promote, and glorify promiscuous activity and behaviors. I think we're capable of doing that. We really can accomplish it because that's where we're chipping away at our power, at our authority, at what we could show up with in the world and society, and the confidence in the children as well, the clarity in our roles, our culture, everything. It starts right there. So I think that that's, if I'm even answering the question right, I really think that can help a lot.
Yeah.
You both answered that question really well. Thank you. That was beautiful.
That was a beautiful question. Thank you so much, Miss co-host.
Right,
and thank you to
I gotta get y'all's wisdom,
on the line. I thank you guys so much for your time and your input. This was awesome. This was amazing. There is part 2, guys. I had so much more questions. So I look forward to having you all on here again for part 2. Make sure you stay tuned. Does anyone have any last comment they want to make? Feel free to give it. If not, on that note, we look forward to seeing you guys again on the next show. And we hope that you was able to relate. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so
The
much.
views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are solely those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, and positions of Shannon P., the host, and the business associated with this podcast. Shannon P. and the Can You Relate podcast crew are not responsible for any statements made by guests and do not endorse any opinions shared unless explicitly stated.